Welcome, Bronco Nation, to another exciting video, and unfortunately, the last exciting video talking about this 2025 season. There will be many, many more exciting videos on this channel, especially as we get into the offseason, get a chance to review this incredible season, up and down incredible season for Boise State, a season I don't think any of us could have predicted that it would go this way. But there'll be plenty more videos reviewing this season, and then, of course, getting into previewing next year. So make sure you guys stick around. Make sure you like, subscribe, because it is not just content during the football season. There's content all season long, all year long on this channel. But one last final time to sit down and look at a Boise State football game, at least until we are another year older and setting up for September again. But Boise State faces the Washington Huskies, 9-4 Boise State Broncos, facing off against the 8-4 Washington Huskies in the LA Bowl. This game is on Saturday. It is literally a few days away. The way the bowl season's been reworked now, you end your conference championship game and you roll right into the bowl season. So this almost feels like a regular season matchup. And these teams have played quite a few times in the past, including during the regular season. So the regional nature, this is a fantastic matchup. 6 p.m. on ABC, so a large channel. It is technically the first FBS Bowl of the season. There's a Celebration Bowl that features two FCS teams before the actual other bowls start, but this is the first one of the season that it features two FBS programs, and Washington is favored by 9.5 points. You will notice a familiar face in the room with me today. For the fifth time running, I have Jake Posey with Master of Football, also the MF Film Room, who is coming on the channel to talk about this matchup. Again, this is the fifth time. We started all the way back in 2021 in the now canceled, never actually took place Barstool Bowl that Boise State pulled out of, but we are going to have a chance to preview a great game. I'm so excited for this matchup. Again, not a bowl game, not this specific bowl game that we thought Boise State would be in necessarily based on how the season was ending, but Boise State pulled it out, and I cannot wait to talk about this game with Jake. Jake, thanks so much for coming on the channel, man.
Absolutely. And I want you guys to know like the level of quality that I am, like Jeremiah Dickey and then some YouTuber. I am right there with Jeremiah Dickey, just as cool in every single way. No. Anyways, I love the fact doing this. Jake and I, we've connected a long time ago. He came up. We went to Boise Fry Company before the game. It was fun. So we're gonna keep on doing this. I'm active on this. He's active on this. As a small YouTubers, we got although a small-ish YouTubers, our friend right here, 2,800 subs and growing, only going one direction. So we're gonna get to that point where, man, he's an OG. Him and I are both OGs on this stuff, and we got a lot of good things coming.
A lot of good things coming. Make sure you guys check out Jake's channels, the MF. Jake Posey with Master Football. That's great content. It's college football in general. He's going to be leaning a lot more into Pac-12 content. So if you got any Pac-12 bros watching this video today, definitely make sure you check that out. It's going to be some great stuff as the new conference gets stood up. And there's not too many YouTubers that are just specializing in that. And Jake's going to be one of them. So make sure you like and subscribe. I'll put a link to his channel in the description of this video. So make sure you go check that out. And then if we've got any gamers at all on this video today, MF Film Room, that is really kind of become his real focus recently. Is a separate channel. Put the link to that as well. But MF Film Room, anything to do with the NCAA football video games, 26 specifically, and then as they release new updates, he'll stay on those as well. Fantastic content, really, really, really fun as well. So make sure you check out both those channels. But let's get into previewing this video today. We're going to look at season expectations, what we thought Boise State was going to do, because we previewed this season together, but like we've also done 5 years running. Previewed the season together, and then we'll look at how did this season turn out, our thoughts on that. We'll look at series history between Boise State and Washington. We'll look at key players. We'll talk about potential bowl opt-outs, none announced as of the shooting of this video, but could drop at any time. So we'll talk about some potential bowl opt-outs. We'll talk about key players for both Boise State and Washington. So hey, if there's Washington fans watching, this video has stuff for you as well. It's obviously Boise State heavy. You can see the jersey he's wearing. You can see my background. Obviously, Boise State heavy. We wear our bias on our sleeve, but we're also going to try and be as analytical as we can and keep Washington as part of this discussion as well. So please contribute in the comments below. Washington fans, let us know your thoughts on the video. Video, sure, but let us know your thoughts on the game and your predictions for this matchup. Then we'll get into keys to the game for Boise State versus Washington, and we'll end with a score prediction. And that brings me to my favorite part of every single prediction challenge, your chance to win this Ashton Genty jersey. I do that just to incentivize people to comment because it is my favorite part of doing my videos. I truly, truly love going down in the comments after any of my videos and interacting with each and every one of you. It makes me feel like I'm at a tailgate environment It gives me something that I don't get to experience every day because I don't get the chance to live in the great city of Boise. So it gives me that opportunity to interact with you, Boise State fans or opposing fans. So anybody can comment, Boise State or Washington fan, get into the comments below. Give me your score predictions. If you get the score exactly right, as many people as do that, most people get it right. As many people as get the score exactly right will be entered into the raffle to win this jersey, along with all the other season winners so far. If nobody gets exactly right, I'm going to go with who put their comment in closest to the final prediction. And if there's multiple people with that, then it'll go to who commented first. So get those comments in early. This is your last chance to win one more piece before we get into the rest of the video. I promise there's a preview as part of all of this intro. One more piece before we get into the rest of the video. Horseshoe Spirits, folks. Christmas is around the corner. You have, at this point, we're shooting this just a few days before the bowl game. So you've got a couple of weeks. You've got a couple of weeks left to get your presents in for Christmas. Horseshoe Spirits, a fantastic way to get something that would be a great gift for any Boise State fan in your life. It will look great on their shelf, but more importantly, it will taste great in their glass. And it's a gift to Boise State because it goes to supporting Boise State's NIL program as well through the Horseshoe Collective. So they have bourbon, they have rum, they have compound gin, they have vodka. Make sure you check it out. If you don't live in the great state of Boise, like you say, Boise, great state of Idaho, and you can't go to any liquor store in the southwest of Idaho to pick one up for yourself, you can go online. They have an online link. I'll put that in the description below. You buy 6 more bottles. Again, Christmas around the corner. Get those gifts in. If you buy 6 more bottles, shipping is free. If you buy 3 to 6 bottles, it's 50% off. Make sure, of course, follow state laws as applicable, 21 or older, and drink responsibly. All right, let's get into previewing this matchup. Season expectations. We both, for this season, did what we do pretty much every year. We look at the season, we look at Boise State, we get into our little childhood memories of what this program used to be. We see some things that kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, kernel of evidence, and we lock onto it, and we go, Boise State is winning it all, and we did that again this year. I predicted 11-1, you predicted 10-2. You were a little closer with 9-4 overall, and Boise State, obviously not anywhere close to my prediction. However, in the end, I don't know how we did it, but we did end up in the right conclusion, which is Boise State will be in the Mountain West Championship game. And I actually predicted they'd be playing UNLV. So after looking back on this season, your expectations coming in, how it unraveled and then brought itself back together again, what are your thoughts on this crazy up and down year for Boise State?
Well, for the second time in 3 years, I thought that the world was ending. And we're basically just going to say that. So I actually was literally counting it up because I basically, when Madsen went down, I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what Max Cutforth could do in the game. Comes in, little do we understand that, like, comes off the bench, not a lot of experience, one of the best defenses in college football, and it looked like it against Fresno State. Lose that game. By the way, Boise State, amazing at winning Mountain West championships and absolutely horrendous at winning the milk can. That is something that going forward, they're going to have to address that kind of thing. But you're kind of doing the math here. Okay, we've got a bye week. Then we play at San Diego State. It's a torrential downpour and one of the best defenses in college football. What are we going to do there? Comes at Colorado State, win, Utah State, win, Mountain West championship game, and win against UNLV. So it did not go the way we wanted to. I thought 10-2, trap game with Nevada, things like that. But unfortunately, very first game of the season, the advanced analytics said, okay, did we really get beat that bad? And all Boise State fans were like, oh, well, fumble here, this or that. But it was basically like the Boise State had 8 drives against South Florida inside their territory, and they scored 1 time. So lots of things went wrong in that sort of game. However, I will say this. College football, especially with the fact that there's 2 G5, by the way, that's a made-up designation. There's 2 G5 teams in the playoff here. I suspect, especially with what happened to the ACC, with the fact that one of the big issues with these expanded conferences is that, unfortunately, not everybody gets to play each other. So your arbitrary, tiebreakers are this team, point spread, this is like opponent. The Mountain West, surprisingly, in the era of the CFP, as much as Boise State fans, we are looking forward. Well, some of us are. As Boise State fans are looking forward to going to the Pac-12, the Mountain West actually got it right, where the Mountain West basically said that of one of their higher level tiebreakers was CFP standings. So in that instance, that right there could have saved the ACC from having their nightmare scenario where they only had one team in an at-large, potentially almost didn't get in because of how well, Notre Dame was playing. So I think that, one, everybody knows this. There's going to be more changes coming to college football. But going back to the Mountain West and Boise State, they find that they are inevitable. 3 straight, UNLV, UNLV's got a good program. They were doing a good job recently. 5-0 Boise State is versus UNLV in the last 3 years, and they come out and they culminate with a win and an appearance in the, I want to say is it the Jacked Up or Cracked Up Bowl by Gronk? What is it again? I forgot what the sponsor is, but I know
Bucked Up.
Bucked Up. Thank you very much, sir. The Bucked Up, which is a supplement brand by Rob Gronkowski. He is sponsoring the game, so we're going to be there. Gronk's going to be there. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, Boise State has become death the destroyer of conferences. Every time they move on, the conference falls. Well, they are moving on to the Pac-12 now, and hopefully this time they can rebuild and make this thing stronger. At least then it looks from the outset coming in. Excited for this new season for Boise State, but we have one more game to look at here. I agree, Boise State not ending the way that we thought, but like you said, Boise State is inevitable. They end up here. They find a way to win. And we talk about the magic of Boise State, right? Those magical turnarounds of the season, those magical in-game moments in the Fiesta Bowls and all those kind of things. But I was thinking about this the other day. The magic doesn't just happen randomly. Boise State creates it, and they create it through a culture that doesn't give up. Even when you throw a pick six in the Fiesta Bowl after you've had like a 3-score lead for most of the game, and now you're down, Boise State doesn't give up, and it gives them the opportunity to do something magical. When you're in a season where you lost your starting quarterback and you've now lost 2 straight games, you're out of CFP contention and in all likelihood out of Mountain West Championship contention, you don't give up. You find a way to rally when the chips are the worst, when the tables are turned the most against you. That is when Boise State finds an opportunity to rally back, and that's what happened this season. That is why Boise State is inevitable, because they have an unbeatable culture. It doesn't mean they can't lose, but it does mean that you're not going to hold them down for long, and they have an opportunity here to do something, again, magical, because Boise State, under Spencer Danielson, hasn't won a bowl game yet. Now, obviously, he's only been a coach for a couple of years, but they haven't won a bowl game. They haven't beaten a Power 4 program, or Power 5 at the time, Power 4 program since 2019. So Boise State has an opportunity to do something very, very special in a season that didn't look like it was going to be special really at any point in the year until the end. So let's look into the series history between Boise State and Washington. These two teams have met in the past. This record right now is 2-4. Right now, obviously, Washington holding the head-to-head advantage there with 4 wins versus Boise State's 2. Started out in 2007 with old Taylor Tharp at the helm, 10-24 win at UW at their old stadium. And then we win, obviously, by Washington in that game. And then Boise State got their first win in the series in the 2012 bowl game, which honestly is just one of my favorite bowl games. Joe Southwick at the helm there. They go for Cena, kicks a last-second field goal, last drive field goal to take the lead and cement the win, 28-26. That was Boise State's first win. 2013, Washington would have their revenge, 6-38, and then, of course, have their subsequent revenge when they stole Chris Peterson from us. And then 2015, Boise State would get their win back on the blue. Chris Peterson losing on the blue for the first time ever. And then 2019, well, not first time ever, but first time on the opposing sideline. 2019, 7-38 loss. And then 2023, we know how that one went, 19-56. So Washington's had a pretty good lead in this series and has won most of these games pretty substantially. But Boise State's had their opportunity to get theirs, and this in a bowl game matchup. I know not every fan was amped about this one on either side. I mean, Washington fans, of course, kind of goes both ways. I actually like Washington fans as a whole. I don't have anything personal against Washington. Obviously, we share the Chris Peterson. I think Washington as a state is a beautiful place. I love Washington and Washington State fans for the most part that I've got to interact with. But, every fan base, they're a Power 4 fan base, so they have some of their, kind of elitist attitudes there as well. And, honestly, on Twitter when this was announced, the fan base as a whole, at least, vocal minority, wasn't super pumped about having to go play a group of 5 program in Boise State, a team that they've played pretty routinely in the past. And honestly, on the Boise State side of things, I think we're excited to be in the LA Bowl, but not everybody was amped to go and play a team that they've played a bunch of times. They kind of wanted a little bit of excitement. It kind of felt like the bowl selection committees were just kind of going with the easy option. Boise State tends to play a lot of the same teams in bowl games recently. So not every fan on either side was amped about this. I'm personally pretty excited, but what are your thoughts? Is this a good matchup from either team's perspective in this game?
Well, and the way to tell if it's a good matchup is what you have to look at the spread. So if you look at the spread there, you're able to see they don't want to have a spread to be 25.5, 28.5, 35.5 in a bowl game or something like that. They want it to be a close spread. What the people have to remember here is that, and I was looking at this, I was like, why is it UW in this game? The reason why is because the bowls and the conferences kind of move at different agreements here. So right now, currently, with the agreement with the LA Bowl, it is the previous Pac-12 arrangement. So that contract is going to expire after the season. So all the former Pac-12 schools, even if they went on to the Big 12, even if they went on to the Big 10, they still have those old agreements. And I mean, yeah, as much as it's one of those things where I'd love to have played a team from the Big 10, especially out east, a team from the ACC, a team from the American, something like that. I don't mind playing UW. It's cool. It's LA. It's easy for both teams to get there. It's a West Coast game. It's an old matchup. I don't mind it at all. As a matter of fact, the way that this game has gone in neutral sites, it is a 1-1 record right here. Obviously, one of the last times they played was Coach Pete's last game, and that went rough. And then the last time they played in a regular season game, that was a team that played in the national championship. That was, all those guys out there, Roma Dunze. I'm missing on the Michael Penix Jr. All those guys out there. So that was a really good game for them. But again, this game right here, really excited about it. Yes, of course, you'd love to play somebody that you've never played before, but I'll take it. I have an opportunity to get a Power 5 win that they have, or Power 4, whatever the hell it is, A5, A4, whatever the hell the designation is of the day. It's cool as an opportunity to play that. Right now, like you said, the spread is currently 9.5. So UW is a solid favorite. But again, 9.5 is not enough to just automatically call it.
Well, and what I love about this game when you talk about matchups is I think it impacts the players in the performance as well, because I think it's a good one where both teams are motivated to play. That doesn't always happen, especially when you have these, group of 6 type programs versus Power 4, again, made up designations for the as they are. But when you have these matches with kind of those upper echelon 4 conferences versus the rest, a lot of times the group of 6 programs pretty excited to be in the matchup, but the Power 4 team is like, I can't believe we have to be here. And you see a ton of opt-outs on potentially both sides, but especially on the Power 4 side. I don't think that's going to happen now. And we will have a couple opt-outs here and there. Cage Casey's a potential to opt out for Boise State with his potential draft stock. And in Washington will have probably a couple of players that are either planning on transferring or maybe, saving themselves for the draft. But overall, this is a Boise State team, 9-4, that doesn't have right now, unfortunately, a ton of superstar level talent. They don't have a ton of Ashton Genties. They got Cage Casey, who's probably first, second round pick, but they don't have a ton of other players that are, going to be getting stolen right away. The transfer portal win has been moved, and also going to the draft right away at first round, thinking about opting out. On Washington side of things, they're motivated to be here. They're 8-4, but last year they were 6-7. Okay, so this is a team that wasn't really in CFP contention this year. They obviously every team wants to be, but that wasn't really where this was. This is a program that's rebuilding itself. After the move from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, they're trying to rebuild themselves and find their footing again. And this is an opportunity for them to come in and make themselves better. I love what their head coach said, Jed Fisher. He said, the best way to get good at football is by playing football. The best way to get good at football is playing football. I love that thought process. I love that mentality. They're not just seeing this as a meaningless bowl game. They're seeing this as an opportunity to improve, build themselves, and use it as a launching pad for next season. And when you look at the majority of these players, they're all in a similar boat. Their quarterback is a sophomore. A lot of their key players are juniors that likely aren't going to the NFL this year, or younger players, sophomores or standout freshmen. They have a couple of seniors, but they don't really have anybody either due to injury or other circumstances that's just blowing up the league right now. Their top running back, again, injury played a role, but he only has 700-ish yards. Top wide receiver, 755 yards. Their highest sack leader only has 3.5 sacks. So I think you're going to see both programs very, very motivated. Maybe the fan bases have their own thoughts, but I think both programs, at the very least, as players and as teams, are very motivated to play in this game and have a lot to win in this matchup. Before we talk about key players for Boise State and Washington, what are your thoughts on kind of the players' approach to this? Do you see a lot of potential opt-outs, or is there anybody that stands out to you as a potential opt-out for this game?
So, I mean, obviously there's Cage Casey. He's got the grades for him. There was also, a couple other players maybe of potential there. But I think that the big thing about this, one of the huge benefits that people don't really consider when you're talking about the bowl game schedule is that this game is one of the first bowl games. This is a regular week. So the game, Boise State played on a Friday, the previous Friday. Now they're playing on the next Saturday. That's a totally normal thing. They have the regular week prep. They don't have to do a bunch of crazy stuff. They're studying stuff, film on Monday and Tuesday. They're putting in the game plan on Wednesday. They're flying out on Friday, maybe fly out a little bit earlier there, but it's the same schedule. They are going to be done playing football early to mid-December as opposed to late December like the other teams. If this was a game where it's going to be December 29th, it's going to be at noon, it's going to be in, New Mexico, or it's going to be in South Florida, or it's a big old trip, or this or that. That might be a scenario where guys look at like, I have to practice 15 more times before I got to play, something like this. This game, a couple practices, roll into it. I mean, again, Cage might opt out. Even if he doesn't, I think that there's going to be a lot of guys that still play in this game because, one, that short schedule. They don't have to worry about practicing over and over and over and the wear and tear. They might be able to even play the game and then enter the transfer portal in later. It's not a big deal there. Like you said, Jed Fish said right there, the best way to get better at football is playing football. They're going to they have an opportunity to play very quickly after their season ended.
That's a great point about the quick matchup on this. It does feel like a regular season game, and you don't have all this time to think about it. Get agents in your ear whispering at you saying whether or not you should jump in the portal or get ready for the draft. I think that we're going to see a lot of players play in this game, and I'm excited for that. In a season, in a time period when bowl games have started to lose their meaning a little bit, this one feels like it still has a lot of meaning, and I'm excited about the matchup. And people won't be bowl game fatigued because it's the very first one, so we should have pretty high viewership. So let's look at key players. Hopefully, all these guys we talk about today will play in the game. But let's talk at key players with Boise State versus Washington. We'll go with Boise State and Washington key players. Start off with the Boise State guys. Right off the bat, quarterback, Madsen. What a controversial figure he has been in his time and will continue to be because he has another year at Boise State. But what you cannot argue is he has found a way to win Mountain West championships. He's now won two. He won this one here in 2025 and one in 2024. Obviously injured in 2023, so wasn't part of that team. But he's won back-to-back Mountain West championships, and he has carried this team at least as an emotional leader for this program. 2,283 yards passing, and obviously he missed 4 games due to injury, so still pretty impressive numbers overall on that. 18 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. My biggest concern with Madsen is just whether or not he's fully healthy. Versus UNLV, he got the decision to start. We had Jalen Henderson on to talk about it. It's kind of interesting that this season where people are comparing the quarterback situation to 2019, we end up playing the exact same team in the bowl game, so the circumstance, everything comes around the world once again. But Boise State Madsen got the start, which was a controversial decision at the time that ended up being, in a sense, proved right. However, I'll ask you your thoughts here in a second on that decision. I'll just throw mine out. I think Spencer Danielson got lucky in that game. I think that Madsen was not 100% or anywhere close to it. I think he rode off of the mad dog fight because he is a fighter and he's always going to put his best up when everyone doesn't believe in him. But he rode off of that fight and that adrenaline early, had a great first half. But in the second half, he only completed 6 of 14 passes, which included a 46-yard short pass, which was not very good, a short pass to Chase Penrier, ran it down. So he only completed in all of his other passes about 50-ish yards, 60, 50 yards in the second half. And he definitely did not look like the first quarterback. He looked first half quarterback. He looked fatigued. He looked banged up. He looked like he was not putting everything behind the ball. He had short hopped a couple of rollouts. So if we had been in a dogfight in the second half, I am not sure that decision would have been proved right. But Madsen came out with enough fire spark in the first half to give Boise State a big enough lead that they could coast to a win in the second half. I am not sure that will be enough to win versus a team like Washington, where they are going to be the heavy favorites, and you're going to need to have that first quarter, first half level quarterback performance all the way through. Before we talk about anything else with these key players, the Madsen decision versus Max Cutforth, either in the championship game or in the bowl game. What are your thoughts with that whole situation?
And I'll let you guys know, we talked about this before, and I'm going to coin the term here. It's going to be a temporary term, but I'll coin the term here. It's the Mad, and then you have a space, the dog/Max question. Is it Mad Max or is it Mad Dog? Again, what are we talking about here? So I will correct you on one thing there. You said maybe we got a little lucky with the UNLV game. Unfortunately, you and I both know there is nothing like UNLV's defense being absolute barbecue chicken. Okay, we were going to win that game. Whoever was starting at quarterback, they're terrible. It is what it is. They know it too. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm a Raiders fan. Paul Gunther is a defensive coordinator. He sucked when he was a defensive coordinator for the Raiders. He sucked at UNLV. Is what it is. Okay, now let's move on from that. You are correct where you start to put into, bigger conference opponents, bigger conference defense. You need to actually score. Damon Williams, we're going to get to him in a second here. You got a little bit more aptitude on the other side of the ball. That is a great question here. So I think that what the Boise State coaching staff went with is that, ultimately speaking, if we sit these quarterbacks down from a intangibles perspective, I think Madsen is better. From a tangible perspective, Max Cutforth is better. It is definitive. I had multiple people who were talking in text threads, and they're like, we were watching the Utah State game, watching the Colorado State game, and we're like, Yo, Max Cupforth's kind of got a little bit of an arm here. That big over route for the touchdown that he threw. He's kind of very easy throwing motion. It's not he doesn't have an exceptionally better arm than Madsen, but he has a definitively better arm than Madsen. That is for sure. I will let you guys know. I'm gonna take an aside here and we'll step out. The day after Madsen's career is over, I want you guys to know we have to appreciate this guy so much for what he's done so far. All the hell he's had to go through, the dual quarterback situation, the fact that he loses his Heisman Trophy winner, he's got to play against Penn State in the CFP. He has gets injured here and there. He's had so many things he's had to handle, and he's done the best job. I'm telling it right now. 1 year, 11 years from now, 11 years from this day, he is going to be the hottest name in college football coaching. Maddox, I'm telling you, I don't care what your degree is. I don't care what you want to do. Go into coaching. You're going to be one of the best out there. That being said, right now with this decision, Max Cupforth does have some juice, and I would be a lot less confident if we didn't see him take his lumps against a great defense at Fresno State. If we didn't see him take his lumps against a terrible weather game, again, a great defense against San Diego State. So I'm looking at this right now. Ultimately, I think that in a 7-on-7, inside of 10 yards, accuracy perspective, knowledge of where to throw the ball, I think Madsen has the edge. Max Cupforth has some juice. The field stretches when he's out there. He can throw a little bit better on the run, a little bit more dynamic of an athlete there. So ultimately, the coaching staff, they went with the efficiency. And again, especially against UNLV, you're not too worried about that. Like I said, barbecue chicken defense, you don't really worry about that too much. Against UW, a little bit more stout, a lot more things to consider there. They're going with Maddox, but I think that I am confident anything happens with Maddox, we have Max that can go in the game.
Well, and again, BJ said this could be something, it could be nothing, but they were supposed to have a practice was open to the media today, this morning, and they last second decided to make it a closed practice. So who knows what's going on? Maybe they're. I sincerely doubt, based on the personality type of Spencer Danielson, that they're having a quarterback battle to decide who starts this bowl game. I think the mentality thought process for Spencer Danielson, he's very much a relationship coach. Unless you are absolutely not able to play with a Max Madsen type, he's going to start and play the majority of this bowl game. But maybe they are running some plays. They're practicing some things where Cupforth has a role. I think he's earned a chance to have, a couple of plays that are designed for him potentially. Not a 2 quarterback system. I'm not arguing for that. But, a couple of design plays like, when you go back and watch that 2011 season where you have Kellen Moore and Joe Southwick. Kellen Moore, Joe Southwick, who is, he's a little better runner, but I mean, overall, he was a similar style, not obviously not as good, but a similar style quarterback to Kellen Moore, and that he wasn't this like elite running quarterback. He was still a pocket passer. They still have him going into the game and having a couple of plays, couple of drives here. I mean, the Georgia game, Joe Southwick came in like 11 times versus Georgia in that matchup. So maybe that's the case where they're trying to work them in. The only last thing I'll say about Max Madsen, and I do agree with you. I absolutely admire the fight in Max Madsen. He is, when we talk about OKGs, for any Washington fans who watching may not know, that our kind of guys. When you talk about OKGs, he is the quintessential OKG, the guy that nobody else wanted. I know he was recruited by a couple. He was not a walk-on. He was recruited by a couple of people, but the guy that nobody else really wanted, the player that nobody believed in. Physically, you look at him, you think he's never going to be a starter in college football, and he is, and he's won a lot of games, and he does that through just pure grit, determination, and effort and intelligence, because he has to make up for some of those physical lacks with the field awareness overall and the intelligence piece. And so Maddox Madsen is one of those quarterbacks that you want to win. You want to succeed. You want him to find a way to beat everybody else out and be the starter. But that is the key word there. Beat everybody else out. When he beat Taylor Green out for the starting job, I had no problems with that. When he beat Malachi Nelson out for the starting job, I had no problems with that. The only issue I had is this season when they came into it and said, Max Madsen doesn't need to be pushed, doesn't need to challenge. He absolutely does. You look at his tape, you look at what he capabilities-wise, there are absolutely other quarterbacks who could challenge him. And when you're looking at a team, you're not looking at a player, you're looking at a team. You want the player who is going to benefit the team the most. You want a player that can beat Notre Dame. You want a player that can, in 2026, go out and beat Oregon. You want a player that can take you to and win, which is the team's goal, a CFP. And with that, you have to be realistic. Now, Max Madsen could do that. He could be the winner of a open quarterback competition, but you have to have a quarterback competition that allows the best on your roster, regardless of how you personally feel about them, the best on your roster rise to the top. And honestly, Max Madsen is better when he has a fight and a battle that he has to compete with. So Max Madsen for this season, he's done incredible things to come back from injury and bring us to where we are. And hopefully he can end that with a win versus Washington. But regardless of the results of this game, whether he's great or he sucks, regardless of how this game goes, Boise State has to approach 2026 with the thought process of the team and opening this up to a competition from within to find out who is truly the best quarterback on his roster. I think Max has potential. I think Max has potential. I think some of our incoming true freshman high schoolers have potential, but we have to have the best, and it cannot be who you have the best relationship with in the end. So when I started this channel, first few years, I was known as the Maddox Madsen, supporter. That I was
too. You got a lot of crap.
I got a lot of hate for being too pro Maddox Madsen, and now I've got people commenting on my last video saying we're done with this Maddox Madsen hate channel. So it just goes either way as far as the perception, because I don't stick to an emotional perspective of who I like the best. I stick to the facts. When the facts were that Max Madsen in 2023 was the best quarterback for the system that Boise State chose to run. The facts were that in 2024 with Ashton Jeanty, he was the best quarterback for the system that Boise State was running. That was always my point. My point was not that he was the best quarterback in Boise State history or that he should be the contender no matter what the offense. And I even said that when you look at skill level wise, he's probably not even a top 7 quarterback in Boise State history, potentially not even top 10 if you just look at pure talent, physical talent, and especially take the mental game away. What I did say is he's the perfect quarterback for the system. This year, without Ashton Jeanty, with the offense that we had, the offense that we chose to run, I'm not sure he was the best quarterback for this system, and I didn't like that Boise State didn't choose to push him. So I am excited about 2026. I would love if Max Madsen is the starter. Like I said, I respect the heck out of him, and as a OKG guy, you want to see him be the one that succeeds. But at the end of the day, I want what's best for this team. And so I'm always going to continue to support the facts. I'll support the team overall. I'll root for individual players. But when it comes to looking at what is best for the program, I'm going to look at the team aspect overhaul. And for now, Max Madsen coming into the LA Bowl, he's the starter. He's who Boise State's going with. I hope that he has a great game. We will see how truly healthy he is. This could be the matchup that sparks something in 2026, either Max Madsen finding that way to power through and win and giving him that edge that then leads him into a great year in 2026, or opens up the conversation and really gives the coaches no choice but to have an open quarterback competition in 2026. We will find either way. What Max Madsen has not done yet is beat a Power 4 on the biggest stage. So we'll see how this game goes. That's my key player number 1. I know that was a big off tangent. We're not going to go that in depth into every single player, but we talked about it in the preview for the UNLV game with Jalen Henderson. I want to have another conversation with you coming into this, especially after we saw what he did versus UNLV. But key player number 1 for me, Max Madsen. Key player number 1 for you for Boise State. Who you got?
Obviously, it's Maddox Madsen. I mean, the thing about it is that they went with that decision there for Max Cutforth. I do think that early on in the season, I mean, you could tell that even before Maddox Madsen got injured, everybody felt like there's something missing here. Is he holding the offense back? But then he gets injured against Fresno State, and it's like, oh, he was holding back what we were worried about. Max Cutforth gets that needed experience, those huge lumps. Again, losing rivalry games to SDSU and Fresno State, those are big lumps. But Maddox Madsen, he still is the guy. Again, he's smart. He's not going to do anything heinous. Again, when we talked about Taylon Green on the team, Taylon Green had an unlimited ceiling. That ceiling was as high as it goes. And about 3 to 4 times a game, you'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Maddox, lot less of those. The ceiling, figuratively and literally, is a little bit lower for Max Madsen, but you kind of always know what you're going to get. He's not going to do anything absolutely heinous. He's going to keep you in the game. If you put a good team around, it's kind of like, the Dak trap in the NFL. Dak Prescott. Is Dak Prescott, when the running game doesn't work and the defense is having issues, is he going to be able to go on the road in the playoffs and score 35? I don't know, but he's going to be consistent all throughout the season. If you put a good team around him, he is going to execute games. Game manager is a pejorative, not with this guy. He's going to manage to win the game. He does a good job here. Maddox Madsen is my number 1 as well.
key player number two for me, I'm going to go into the running game. And you might think I'm going to say Dylan Riley, and I think he's going to be a big role in this. But I think when you're looking at a team like Washington, who has a great run stopping defense, or 17th overall in the country in stopping the run, is not just going to be one running back. And Boise State hasn't one running back the entire season. They've done a two-headed attack, three-headed at times. And now they've settled into the running rotation of Dylan Riley and Sire Gaines. I think Sire Gaines is going to be a huge difference maker in this. I think that both running backs are going to play a significant role. But Sire Gaines, Dylan Riley, incredible talent. And it's so exciting seeing him there. He is one of those really quick, speed, elusive type backs, right? He'll break a couple of tackles here and there, but his main thing is he's going to be really, really quick, and he's going to find a way to find that elusivity and get you those huge long runs. The great thing about Sire Gaines is he has that ability to dominate the defender in front of him. He's Ashton Jeanty-esque, and it's kind of like we broke up Ashton Jeanty into two running backs, and we have his speed and quickness in Dylan Riley, and we have his power in Sire Gaines. Sire Gaines has been dealing with recovering from the injury. He took a very, very significant injury last year, lower body, and I don't think people fully realize how much he has been struggling with that throughout this season. He really hasn't been truly healthy this entire year. He's been trying to fight and come back from it, but we haven't seen the true potential of Sire Gaines because he's been dealing with that. The last few games for him, we have really seen the spark fires from him, those opportunity potentials, the kind of things we saw when he was coming in versus Georgia Southern, or even a couple times versus Oregon before he got injured, versus the FCS program we played last year. Either way, Portland State. The times before he got injured, we saw those flashes, and we didn't really see those too much this year. But the back end of the season, we really have. And most importantly, last week when he broke 7 tackles versus UNLV, have 20-ish yard run, 7 different tackles, including 2 that were double tackles. 2 players coming high and low, and he broke that twice on that run. I think a player that has 795 yards, so he's still had a pretty good season overall, overshadowed by Dylan Riley's 1,000 plus, but 795 yards, 5.2 yard average, 8 touchdowns, and receiving touchdown. This is a player for me when you're talking about softening up and pounding up a great defense in Washington. He is the kind of that change of pace opportunity where he's going to give Boise State the opportunity to soften up Washington and then give opportunities for Dylan Riley to explode on the outside. I'm excited about what Sire Gaines can do. I'm excited what he can do in 2026 if we can keep both him and Riley in the backfield. It reminds me a little bit of Ashton Jeanty, George Kalani. We had both of them going up against defenses. If we can keep him going into 2026, he's going to do incredible things. And I think that here in the bowl game, his final chance of this season, he explodes. I'm excited to see what he does in this matchup.
Yeah, and for Sire Gaines, the cool thing is you notice, like, whenever Boise State's in a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, gotta have it. Do they go with quarterback sneak? No, they go Sire Gaines right up the middle. They put him almost at like a fullback split, right straight forward. Those are going to be big against a team as quality as University of Washington. Mine is the guy just to the front and just to the right. Good old Roger Carrion, right guard Roger Carrion, he is up and down. I would love to see his Pro Football Focus scores, because sometimes he is absolutely demolishing some guy, absolutely owning them. Other times, lots and lots of penalties. He's one of those guys, especially against a strong front and a strong defensive front. If you talk about University of Washington, they are 17th from the stats that I could pull, 17th in rush defense in the country right now. They are stout up the middle. He needs to have a good game, because he's the kind of guy where, you say, oh, offensive line, you only notice them when they get penalties or they get a holding penalty or something like that. Roger Carrion's the guy. They call his number a little bit too often, but on those big plays, when those big runs, he is owning somebody. He needs to do more of the latter and less of the former.
Well, I actually have a player as well on the line, on the other side of the line, who has also had a kind of up and down season. Max Steege, player, obviously replacing Ahmad Hassanin on the line, was looked at a guy that could potentially come in and maybe start having an incredible type season. He had some real opportunity moments in 2024. I got to interview him over the offseason, a player that I've been excited with since he committed from Germany. Really, Boise State does a great job of finding those under the radar guys, those diamonds in the rough, true diamonds in the rough, and then polishing them up and making them incredible athletes. They did that with Ahmad Hassanin. And I think Max Steege has that potential. We didn't see it all the way through this year, but the last back end of the season for him, he has absolutely come on. And I think if he doesn't get tossed unjustly from the worst referee game I've ever seen in my life versus Utah State, if he does not get tossed from that game unjustly, I think he has even a bigger statistical performance on the back end. He's had 24 tackles and 7 tackles for loss. 5 of those 7 tackles for loss have come in the last 3 weeks, including 2 in just the first half versus Utah State. So this is a player that is starting to pop at just the right time, coming into the back end of the season. He's starting to develop that momentum that I think will serve him well going into 2026. When you talk about a bowl game that is immediately after it, he's still fired up from having gotten kicked out unjustly from that Utah State game. I said in the last one, don't piss off the Germans. We know what happens. But Max Stieg coming into this game, I think he's still fired up with that energy and passion from getting kicked out of the Utah State game. He showed up last week, right first play of the first half and first play of the second half, both of them huge tackles for loss. I think when you're talking about having to stop a Washington team that is very, very balanced, their quarterback and their running game is a big concern for you. If you talk about a player that is going to be a big factor in stopping that, Max Stieg, obviously pairing up with JVM off the right side, I think this is a player that's going to have a factor in this matchup.
And I love first of all, the pro America message. Yeah, it's a diamond in the rough. What's the rough? Germany. Anyway, so all right, so mine is actually on the outside. So I think that, and what I typically do is a lot of times my key players are usually in antithesis of each other. So one of the key players I have for Washington is going to be a receiver. One of the key players that I have for Boise State is going to be a corner. Jeremiah Irby, who has Boise State throughout the years. And again, I think it's always easy. It's blaming the offensive line and blaming the defensive backs works the same way. They get flagged the most on that side of the ball, blah, blah, blah. The defensive backs are bad. Boise State actually this year, 13th in pass defense. Like, they're pretty good. Jeremiah Irby has been awesome. He is, and Amari McCoy, I appreciate you, sir. However, I think that every once in a while, you sprinkle a little too much knucklehead in, and I don't appreciate some of those personal fouls. If you could not do that, that'd be great. Jeremiah Irby has done incredible. I mean, absolutely. He is absolutely amazing. The question I have is he going to travel with one of UW's best receivers? They will move him throughout formations there. Is he going to travel? Is he going to stick on one side? There are many times. One of the great things about having a really good corner, especially having like two really good corners, is you can just put them on an island and be like, it's 10 on 10. Because this guy's not getting the ball. This guy's not going to get open. Can Jeremiah Irby do that in this game and make it a 10-on-10 game and void out that receiver? We will see, but he's one of the key guys that I have.
I absolutely agree with that. Boise State secondary has just exploded this year. I mean, just incredible praise to Chenander and Warren being able to turn this thing around. A defense that, an element of the team, not just defense, element of the team that was probably the most maligned element, probably took even more heat than Madsen, and justifiably so based on what we've seen over the last few years. But they turned things around this year. Tubner called it in the preview video for the season. He just basically said, we just knew we weren't up to our level of expectations the first half of 2024. We worked really hard to get better. And I think this defense is now, this is all paraphrasing, of course, but I think this defense is now in a position where they're going to set themselves up to not take a huge decline and actually make themselves a key contributor to this program. And they absolutely did. And yeah, McCoy is a huge part of that. I think that Irby, though, probably of all the defensive players, the most hated by all the mistakes that he made in 2024 and issues that he had earlier in the season, has become the most important element of this Boise State defense right now. Benefield, obviously, super important. Talking about D-line, super important. I've loved seeing Sherrod Smith step up in the absence of McCoy after he went down with the injury. Super important. But I agree, 100%. Irby, he is one of those players. Talk about upside. You should line him up a wide receiver sometimes, because some of these catches he makes on interceptions, absolutely insane. It reminds me Dante Dion-esque at moments in some of these that he's going out and making. So excited for him in this matchup. Let's talk about Washington. We're just going to go all three at one time. I'm going to let you lead off, and then if you say some of the same guys I do, I'll just kind of maybe tag team a little bit after you've mentioned them. But hit me with your three key players for for Washington versus Boise State in this matchup.
All right, well, I'm going to let you know I'm going to cheat here because I'm going to give you four. But what I have right here. So number one, quarterback, Damon Williams. It took me forever. Is it Demon Williams? Is it Damon? It's Damon Williams. He is a jitterbug style quarterback. So if you think about the jitterbug, it's like, your Kyler Murray's, you're kind of those shorter guys who kind of move the quarterback. I'm forgetting his name, from Florida State, kind of that same short guy. He's kind of similar to Anthony Calandria. So if you think about, from a Boise State fan, think about Anthony Calandria from UNLV, their quarterback. I would say that Anthony Calandria is probably a tad bit shiftier, but Damon Williams is significantly faster. He is fast. So he's a good arm, fast quarterback, agile, does things like that. The up next is wide receiver Denzel Boston, 6'4", 210, big body receiver, still pretty smooth, kind of very similar to Roma Dunze, very solid, 10 touchdowns this year. He's the guy that I was basically saying that Jeremiah Irby, is he going to travel with Denzel Boston? Is he going to leave him by himself? That's one of the big questions I have. And then the two, because I really couldn't find one person per se on this defense that was the like linchpin of the rush defense. So I just picked two guys in the middle. They have Elanaeus Davis and, all right, give me a second here, Ta'ida Uyagalele. By the way, the Uyagalele family is just pumping out NFL people. I don't know how many cousins we got in there, but that family is just rolling in cash at this point. They're a top rush defense. So they are one of, like I said, 17th in rush defense. That's one of the big factors I have in this game. If Boise State can establish the run, that the whole offense plays off that, similar to a lot of like the Clint Kubiak outside zone systems in the NFL. Boise State really famous for under center, inline tight ends, play action boot, things like that. If they can stop the run, it kind of throws the whole system off there. And then, like I said, Elanaeus Davis, Itai Uyagalele, those are the two of the big run stuffers they have in the middle there. If those guys can do well against Roger Carrion and the interior of the offensive line, potentially, but if not, I think Boise State has a good chance. Those are my three, though. My four, excuse me.
Well, and that's a big factor on Cage Casey, whether he plays or not, is can Boise State line up against these guys? And Washington, for me, when I look at this program, I love what I see because it's not a team that just relies on one key star, incredible player or position. It's a great team overall. I'm not saying that Washington's going to win the Big Ten or anything in next year, but I think that we're going to see continued improvement out of this team. I would not surprise me if Washington found themselves in the 9 to 10 win realm next year with an opportunity to continue to improve on that beyond. I mean, a lot of young players on this program. And like I said, overall, just a really, really good team. I love the mentality of Jed Fisher, obviously taking over in unfortunate circumstances with the loss of DeBoer, but he's done a great job of rebuilding this program and kind of putting them back into the national spotlight as a team that you worry about a little bit when you have to face them. And obviously as a Boise State team, you worry a lot. So coming into this game, I have one of the key players that matches yours, so I won't go too in depth on him and Williams. Just a young guy, a sophomore, but he's done explosive things. Played a little bit last year, came in about the back end of the season, last couple of games. Didn't win any, but he had a really high completion percentage, and that's what really stands out to me when you see these guys that are dual threat. And he is dual threat. You saw that jitterbug type element, almost 3,000 yards passing. He also has almost 600 yards rushing. So very much Boise State's Achilles heel. But a lot of times when you see these guys that are that dual threat, they don't always have a super high completion percentage. He has a 70% completion percentage, 21 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. And a lot of those interceptions have come on the back end of the year against some of the better teams that they've played. So this is a guy that I'm very, very worried about for a Boise State defense. The secondary, at least in the passing game, I'm not too worried about. My biggest concern is when he takes off and run, because stopping the running quarterback has been Boise State's Achilles heel all season long. I think if Calandria doesn't take that pretty significant hit at the beginning of the third quarter there, about midway through on their drive, they went down and scored. I think if he doesn't take that hit, if he maybe has a better chance of winning that game, because he really wasn't able to run very well afterwards. So stopping Desmond Williams is going to be a huge priority. But on the other offensive side, when they're not going to the quarterback, they have a really, really solid running back. He has dealt with some injuries this year, but Jonah Coleman, he's a senior. He's 5'9", 228. He's kind of like a souped up Malik Sherrod. Same height, but he's got about 50 pounds on him. 673 yards rushing, 4.7 yard average, but he's also a threat in the passing game as well, 344 yards. So he has, if I do my public math here real quick, he has 1,000 yards total between rushing and receiving if he hasn't broken that 1,000-yard cap in the running game. I think this is one of those guys they're going to move him around. They're going to find him ways to get the ball creatively, kind of like Boise State's been doing Malik Sherrod the last few games. He's going to be a definite factor for you, especially when you talk about a Boise State linebacker core. That's probably been their weakest element of the entire team. They are not bad when it comes to getting off the quarterback. They're actually really good at getting off the quarterback. They're not terrible when it comes to stopping the run. They're not great, but they're not terrible when it comes to stopping the run. What our linebacker core cannot do is cover. They really, 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 really struggle when it comes to one-on-one matchups, either against tight ends or running backs, especially if they end up with a wide receiver mismatch. But they really struggle covering in the passing game. And when you talk about a running back like this who can stretch the field on you a little bit, I know most of his passes are shorter, but who can potentially be a threat against linebackers, that's a big factor for me. And then coming to the defensive side, I love who you emphasize on defensive line, but I'm going to go to the secondary. I'm going to go with their leading tackler here, Alex McLaughlin. I may be messing up his name a little bit, so Washington fans, please correct me in the comments below. Former walk-on. He's a junior. He's 6'2", 198. He has a very Tubner-esque presence for me as a former walk-on guy, but he has played beyond his level. He said he thought he was better than a walk-on, and he's proved that. 90 tackles, 10th overall in the Big Ten, 6 passes defended the team, 2 interceptions, including a touchdown, and then he has 1 fumble recovered, including 1 recovered for a touchdown. And so you talk about a potentially not 100%, definitely no way that he's 100% Max Madsen, who's had issues with interceptions and that kind of thing, going up against a Washington secondary that's pretty good overall. They're not like world beaters, but they're top 50 in the country in pass defense. Going up against a guy like Alex McLaughlin is going to be a huge factor. He can come down and support against the run, but more than that, he's going to be a guy that's going to be a presence in the secondary as well. So all over the field, guy in McLaughlin, those are my key players for Washington.
No, that's awesome. And I think that, thinking about that guy, the McLaughlin, so he actually was a walk-on, I want to say, at Northern Arizona, and then he went into portal. He's one of those portal success stories. You're like, okay, this guy's clearly, moved up and gone from there. So he's an exciting one. I think that University of Washington, you can definitely tell that, like, they are a Big Ten team, physical, and he's part of it.
Big opportunity for Boise State in this game. Let's talk about what it means for Boise State to win, the keys required for them to get that win. In addition to your score predictions, I want to know your thoughts on the game overall. Please let me know your, not just score predictions, but how this game is going to go, your thoughts on the season, your expectations for 2026. I want to have that conversation with you in the comments below, so please let us know. But let's get into the keys of the game. We're just going to kind of go round robin style here. I'll do one, you do one. We're each going to do 3 keys to the game for Boise State. My keys for my Thanksgiving episode, I went with a little bit of a Thanksgiving theme. So for this one, I've gone with a little bit of a Christmas theme on it to kind of stick with the element of the season here and maybe see some of the lights here in the background. But my key number 1 is light it up. Boise State going up against Washington defense. They are a very good defense overall, very, very balanced. 103.7 yards per game allowed in the rushing, that's 17th in the country. 207.7 yards per game allowed in the passing game, that's 50th in the country. And scoring defense, also very good, 19.4 points per game, 21st in the country. Boise State is not going to be able to go up and line up against, unless there's a ton of opt-outs from Washington, which I do not expect. They're not going to be able to just go up, line up against Washington, run the ball down their throat, UNR style, and try and get a win out of this. You are going to have to be explosive. The routine runs are not going to get you very much. The short passes are probably not going to get you very much. It will soften up the defense and draw their expectations elsewhere. But in the end, the way that you're going to have to beat Washington is the way that Boise State's found ways to beat teams all season long is the explosive plays. You're probably not going to average 3 yards a carry. You're probably going to average like 1.8 or something like that. You're probably not going to average a ton of completions every single drive. And if you do complete, they're probably not going to be very long, but you're going to have an opportunity to be creative in this matchup. And that is how you're going to need to win this game. I'm not saying that you come out and every single play is a trick play. I'm not saying you come out and every single play is a deep throw or just trying to do a pitch play outside every single time. You still have to mix in the routine offense, but you have to avoid what I call the Potter offense. You have to avoid the offense that we saw from Boise State for 90% of the season, all the way through and up into Colorado State. Now, again, I haven't had anybody tell me this exactly, but you look at that Boise State offense, you look at the decisions that had to be made, the heat that Spencer Danielson felt. I absolutely believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that while Nate Potter is still the offensive play caller, Zach Hill got a bigger role in this offense following the San Diego State game, because this offense we've seen since San Diego State has been a completely different team. You have to stay with that offense. This offense we saw versus Colorado State, Utah State, and in the first half versus UNLV, before Boise State started pulling out more of the Potter type style in the second half. You have to show that offense. What is that offense? What's the Boise State offense we've seen typically every single year for Boise State, at least until Andy Avalos took control of this team? It's the offense that actually, a big reason why I think Zach Hill is a big factor in this offense is if you go back and watch that 2017 and 2019 seasons when he was offensive coordinator, it looks almost identical to the offense that he was running out there for Boise State. It's an offense that is very, very balanced. They're not an offense that's going to run first, play action second, and then figure it out on third down. It's an offense that's going to give you something different to look at. They're going to pull it out and throw the ball deep on first down. They're going to have the short, quick passing game, which really wasn't an element of Boise State offense the entire season. And people say, well, it's just because Max Madsen's too short. They ran it versus UNLV, and it actually worked. And now he was banged up, and not every throw was accurate. He did miss a couple of times, but they showed that it wasn't Max Madsen holding this offense back per se. It was the offensive coordinator and the decision-making there. And now, for whatever reason, however it's happened, Boise State is doing something different, and they cannot go back to their old ways versus Washington. It's going to take that level of creativity and balance. Boise State is going to need to stay unpredictable, this offense, avoid the multiple run play trap. What Boise State has tended to do is that they have a big run on first down, 6 or so yards. They go back to the exact same play on second down, and it doesn't work. I'd love you talk about pro football focus stats. I would love to see the yardage average for Boise State on second down runs, because Boise State typically will have a pretty good run, 6-4 yards, maybe break one big, and then they'll go back to it on the second play and get nothing, or get stopped in the backfield, get 1 yard. And now you're set up on third and medium, third and long. And that is when Boise State starts being creative. You cannot wait until the key downs to be creative. Third down, fourth down. Boise State's had some great play calls on third and fourth down. You have to continue to have those same play calls and level of creativity and risk. Creativity involves risk, but you have to risk against a team like this if you want to win on first and second down as well. So we're talking about giving them those misdirections, using the screens. Boise State's used screens effectively, but using misdirections to hide them. I loved the screenplay we saw to Lake Shore last week, where they faked the handoff to the running back, faked a wide receiver end around, and then threw it back. They actually read it pretty well, but the misdirection gave Boise State just enough time, gave Lake Shore just enough time to be able to break just one tackle instead of the whole defense being there, and then break it up for a 40-plus yard touchdown. Versus if we'd seen that earlier in the season, it'd been what we saw most of the time out of Boise State screens, where they just get blown up, or it's a nothing type yard gain because you got 2 or 3 defenders there immediately as soon as the ball is thrown. So for Boise State, light it up on offense. That means you got to be scheming for the big play, but more importantly, you have to be creative, and you have to know the run game is not going to win this thing for you. You are going to have to go to the air. That is technically Washington's weak spot, but more importantly, that's going to be your opportunity to probably be the most creative and find the most vulnerability versus this Washington defense. Key number one for me, light it up.
Sure. And for me, it's very similar to that too. And I would say that for Nate Potter, especially considering the fact this is his first season as offensive coordinator out there, I think that he really kind of started to figure some things out. He went from Malik Sherrod power run against South Florida down the middle. I'm like, Malik Sherrod's like a third down stretch back. Two, like you said, putting him in the game, putting him out on the perimeter, making him catch passes, using that agility to his advantage. That progression has been something that's good to see. For me, very similar to what you said. First down success on offense. First down success. They have a strong run defense. You're going to have to run some play action. First down, you've got anything in the play, but you could go empty. You could go under center. You go play action. You go shotgun. Anything like that. Like I said, first down success. You do not want to get into a situation, like you said, where it's 2nd and 4, then you run it again. Now you get stopped. It's 3rd and 5. That's where you can get into some trouble there. You want to be first down success, kind of stay on schedule as a team. I'm really a big fan. I think the play action is going to be key in this game, especially because of the fact Boise State's one of the few college football offenses, maybe not few, but one of the diminishing college football offenses that actually do under center. Under center, play action boot, tight end on the backside, runs to the front side. He's open on a flat route, take the candy. Those sorts of plays, they need to do a lot of that.
Key number 2 for Boise State is going to be, it's a special time of year. And by that, I mean special teams need to be a focus in this matchup. You talk about a Boise State team that has struggled to be disciplined all throughout the year and do the little things right. That shows the most in the special teams. When you look at elite teams that are perfectionists, when you look at the Chris Peterson type teams, even Brian Harsin element teams, when you look at programs that focus on doing the little things right, it shows up the most in how they treat their special teams. And Boise State special teams over the last couple of years has not been up to standard. Boise State special teams was the main reason that we lost one of our last games. Obviously, we played UCLA, who's also now in the Big Ten, but our last Pac-12 Big Ten game against Oregon. That was the main reason that we lost that game. Allowed 2 special teams touchdowns, otherwise Boise State wins that game. That is going to be the biggest difference. It has been the most maligned and deservedly so element of this entire program, beyond offensive coordinator, beyond quarterback, beyond drop passes by receivers. It, as a unit, has been the most maligned element of this team this entire season, deservedly so. However, last week, they turned things around. Last week was the best performance I've seen on this Boise State special teams this entire season. The kicking game got in running with a 50-yard field goal. The punting game was 40-plus yard average, which Doyle's done a great job punting all season long. But more important than that, the actual coverage team did a really, really strong job. They've struggled to stop those short punt, not short punts, but the punts that trickle into the end zone type situations. Boise State intentionally practiced that. You could tell with they up and going down to go and stop those punts. They were trying to catch them in a very intentional way and ground the ball, which we really hadn't seen that level of intentionality all season long. And I really, really loved what I saw out of that. 2 punts downside the 20 because of Boise State's intentionality in that factor. And then finally getting the return game going. Boise State has struggled all year to do anything in the punt return or the kick return. And last week, Boise State averaged 9.7 yards on 3 punt returns. And they would have had a longer one, about 27 yards, if they didn't have some penalties on that return. So overall, Boise State has shown the ability to improve. This is a focus time coming into the end of the year. Stacey Collins starting to feel the heat a little bit, brought him back from Penn State, supposed to do great things with special teams. We probably had two of the worst seasons for special teams back to back that we've seen at Boise State in a very long time. I'm not calling for Stacey Collins to be fired right now. I think there's still time to turn things around. And I have loved what I've seen out of him on the sideline. The fire and energy that he brings. He kind of gets in players' faces, kind of the counterpoint to Spencer Johnson, who's a little bit more positive all the time. So I think you need that yin and yang. And I like what Stacey Collins as an energy leader on the sideline brings to this team. So I think there's potential to turn things around. But if we don't see improvement next year, it will definitely be a conversation. And it all starts this week in the bowl game. I think Stacey Collins has an opportunity to get this special teams in a place where they can be not something that hurts the team, but it's something when you talk about coming up against Washington offense, it's very, very balanced. Boise State offense is probably going to struggle to get this ball moving at least consistently throughout the game. The field position battle is going to be a huge element in this one, and special teams are going to be a huge factor in that. And I think that will be a massive key for Boise State to prove that they've overcome the lack of discipline and consistency that we saw for most of the season if they can avoid the little mistakes, the killers, and that all starts with the special teams in this game.
And I'll let everybody know here that before I get to my second key point, Jake and I, we can kind of disagree on certain things every once in a while, and that's totally fine. My stock of Nate Potter versus his stock, where that's at, we kind of have a little bit of a disagreement there. Whether or not going to the Pac-12 was a good idea or not, we kind of have some disagreement there. We have 100% agreement on Stacey Collins being, it's certainly warm. It might not be hot, but it's warm. Like, what the hell? That is far and away. And you saw that towards the end of the season. I don't know if this was intentional or not, but I felt like I started to see more and more starters on punt return units, on these sorts of units here, just because they're like, okay, well, we got to do something. I think it needs to be schematic. Stacey Collins needs to address that situation. But again, that was your point. We'll get to mine. So for my point, what I think that the second key game to this game is how do you stop the scramble? And I think they're going to stop the scramble the same way they did against UNLV. They're going to blitz. They're going to blitz the hell out of them on third down. Now, I think one of the issues that they have is that you have, like you said, linebackers can having some issues there. Marco Notriani, really appreciate what he's done. Pretty good. He's very good as long as he has to go forward. If he has to turn, that's where he's a little stiff there. You saw that they're starting to bring in Bone Phelps on third downs. I've been a big fan of Bone Phelps as a third down linebacker, only about 205 pounds, not too big, can't be an every down linebacker there. So what's the solution? We've got a guy who's scrambling. There's a saying that they used to have with it was with Cam Newton. Cam Newton, you blitz to keep him in the pocket. And that's what they're probably going to do to Damon Williams. I think they're going to blitz big time on third downs, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and long. They're going to be blitzing to prevent the scramble. At the beginning of the game against UNLV, Anthony Calandria was actually able to kind of duck and get out because the defensive line didn't keep their rush lanes. There was a sack that Jaden Virgin-Morgan had where he rushed. Calandria went up, and he didn't go too far. He made sure he didn't stay, bam, boom, comes back, gets the sack. I think they're going to do the same thing against Damon Williams and UW.
I love that key. I'm actually really glad I changed my key because I almost had that as my second key to the game. And so I'm glad I changed it so we were able to get a little bit of different sides of things on this.
Well, you had to keep it Christmas focused, man. I didn't know we had this Christmas. I didn't know.
I did. Well, I could have said it's time for blitzing. I could have said that, but otherwise, hey, I'm a dad. I've got to throw out the dad jokes. But I'd also had that as a key to the game versus UNLV, so I was trying to change up. But I absolutely agree. Stopping, we talked about that being Boise State's poison, being that Achilles heel, that dual threat quarterback. I think if we force him to pass the ball, we'll be okay with our secondary. Washington has some really good wide receivers, but not like a Dunzu type level like we were talking about earlier. They have some really good wide receivers, but our secondary is strong. If he runs, if the running game gets going, that's my biggest concern. So I absolutely agree. Key number 3, sticking with the holiday season. This is that time of year where it brings out the skeptics. You've got the believers and you have the skeptics. You have those who still hold on to that childhood memories and magic, and you have those who have forgotten in the daily tussle of CFP life what this season is all about. And I tell you right now that I still believe in bowl season. It is still important. It is still a factor. Bowls still have meaning. They're not meaningless. Now, have they lost some of that meaning and luster? Certainly they have. But the bowls are still a factor. And we'll talk about this specific to Boise State versus Washington, but just jump on my soapbox here for a second. The CFP is not truly open to every team. The CFP, especially when you're talking about group of 5 type programs, we're going to get 2 group of 5 teams into the CFP this year, but that is not the norm. And they're going to very quickly change things to make sure that
they're going to try and they're going to make a rule. Oh, can't do that again. Just like they did last year, they're going to do the same thing.
Yeah. Exactly. The CFP is not truly open to every team. Now, every team technically has a chance, but not every team is truly able to get there. And you get to the midpoint of the season, 90% of college football knows they're not going to the CFP. If you're a group of five team, you've lost a game or two games, you're probably not going. This year, pretty crazy, but probably not going. Even at the Power Four level, a team like Washington knew by the 2/3 of the way point in the season that they weren't going to go to that CFP. Maybe, really, really crazy things, but they're probably not going to go. So the thing that gives the regular season, the meaning, the reason that we had the FBS football bowl subdivision is because of the postseason. And once you get to the halfway point, the CFP is no longer a factor. You still need something to play for, especially these teams that aren't going to be in their conference championship. Something that's going to motivate you, because otherwise, why don't the players just opt out at midway through the year? Why don't they just stop playing at that point? Because they have all the draft stock and footage that they need at that point. They're risking injury. So this argument of don't play in your bowl games, you're risking injury, that argument applies to 90% of teams halfway through the year. The postseason is what gives these teams this season meaning. Because without it, if you don't have a postseason to play for, why are you even playing football? What is the point if the playoffs are not truly accessible and open to every single program? And 90% of the teams don't have a chance there halfway through the year anyway. So that is the big reason why the bowl season matters in general. But specifically to Boise State and Washington, we mentioned this earlier. For Washington, this game has a lot of meaning, right? It's an opportunity for them to continue to build their program, get a win over a top team in the group of five, a program that has a huge brand in Boise State. That still has meaning. But on Boise State side of things, this game is extra meaningful. None of these players, not even the sixth-year COVID seniors, have beaten a P4 program. Not one player left on this team has beaten a Power 4 program. Not one player on this team was there in 2019 when they went out and they beat Florida State to start the season. Not one player has done that. So obviously you can count BYU maybe, but they weren't technically part of the Big 12 when we beat them. So they have not beaten a Power 4 program. That is the last step. When you talk about Boise State finding a way to find it, be back, to establish itself, it's getting to beat a Power 4 program. That's the big monkey off the back. I think in 2023, if we'd had a healthy quarterback situation there, for Boise, 2023 because Taylor Green back down, we ended up with our third, fourth string quarterback playing that game. If we'd had even our second string guy in that game, we might have had a chance versus UCLA, but we didn't. And so we lost to Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl. We lost to UCLA, and we haven't beaten, under Spencer Danielson, a actual Power 4 team. And this is that last monkey. This means a lot for a team that went from a point in the season where they were out of it, where they really didn't have anything left to play for, to a point now where they found their way into the Mountain West Championship. This is having 2022-2023-esque vibes, where the season doesn't start the way, isn't even in the midpoint the way you want to, but you finish strong. These players right now are playing for something. They are playing for a chance to show that this team was not on the rocks forever, that they found a way to get that this team wasn't just Ash and Genty, that Boise State has a bright future ahead and is building towards something in 2026. That is what this season means. Boise State, despite the fact that they lost 2 back-to-back games, lost 4 games this season, has a chance to get to 10 wins. That is absolutely incredible. There was a point in Boise State history where 10 wins was the expectation and the norm. Boise State in 21 years, from 1999 to 2019, only had less than 10 wins 4 times in that period. 4 times in that period, they have less than 10 wins. When you want to talk about a program that can say that it is actually back at the national spotlight, that has overcome everything that Andy Avalos did to this team for 3 years, when you want to talk about a team that has established itself back, 10 wins is meaningful, even if it's a win in a bowl game. Being able to look back and say, okay, yeah, it wasn't how they wanted, but it still got to 10 plus wins. When you look at bowl eligibility, that's pretty much every team. When you talk about 10 plus wins, that puts you in an elite group. That is a top third, even beyond that percentage of college football. And this is meaningful. It puts Boise State back in the spotlight. When you talk about bowl games, what are they mostly for? They're to reward the season that's come, but they're also launching points for the next year. A Boise State team that is trying again to prove that it wasn't just all Ash and JT, get back into the national spotlight in a brand new conference in the Pac-12 that's going to have some focus and some buzz. The way you start your season is important. We don't want it to be important. We don't want the AP poll to mean anything. We don't want all this human bias to mean anything, but it does in the era of the CFP. How you start the season, the attention, the eyeballs that you have on you at the beginning of the year, where you're in the AP poll, either receiving votes or in the top 25, where you're in, all of that impacts what you can do. Your ceiling at the back end of the season. It's an unfortunate reality. And for a Boise State team that wants to find a way to start off next season with a chance to reestablish what we saw in 2024 and get back to a CFP game in the new conference, this right here is how Boise State does that. Finish the year with 10 wins, with a win versus a Power 4 program, or at least a game that's very, very close versus a Power 4 program that then launches them into 2026. This game, bowl games still have meaning. I'm still a believer in bowl games, But for this game specifically, for both of these teams, which I don't think you're going to see a ton of opt-outs, but for both of these teams, I hate seeing the conversation on Twitter where this game is meaningless. It doesn't matter. It 100% matters. And this game right now matters probably more than most postseason games, aside from the CFP that Boise State's been to in the last 6-10 years. This game is a major matchup opportunity for Boise State, and it matters. So my 3 keys to the game: light it up, special time of year, and believe in the bowl season.
Well, that's one of the tougher points to follow there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about myself. I'm not gonna get on my soapbox. That was beautiful, by the way. But I'm gonna say for me, last key to the game for myself, like I said, first one was a first down success on offense, play action, be creative. Second down, blitz to prevent the scramble. And third, because they are going to be blitzing to prevent the scramble, it's going to be a lot of jump ball, contested catches situations. Can you win those matchups? I have a lot of confidence that Boise State can as well. Can I actually throw you a curveball really quickly here? I have 3 keys for UW because I know that I wanted to make sure, hey, you got to be modest here. You got to be, honest and balanced. So I had 3 keys for UW. So for UW, we're kind of tiptoeing around it. We're kind of saying it indirectly many times. UW, if you can stop the run, the whole offense, the whole system for Boise State's offense kind of gets thrown into a tizzy there. So number 1, if you can stop the run, the successful. 2, but pass protect on offense. Like I said, you are going to see anything 3rd and 5 or longer. You're going to see hell to pay when it comes to blitzes, stunts, this, that. You're going to see guys coming from all over the place. Can you protect? And then 3, one of the things I've seen here is that Boise State's defense is very good against the pass, not as good against the run, but good enough to be successful. However, the defense, long drives, they get worn out pretty quickly. Especially, I remember there was a stat recently that said every single drive, I want to say it was Eric Shenander, the defensive coordinator, stated that every single drive that had a personal foul, whether or not it was, a unsportsmanlike conduct or this, that had a personal foul, ended up getting a touchdown. Now, am I saying UW needs to come out and start talking trash to everybody? No, I mean, they can if they want to. But I'm saying basically, like, the longer the drive goes, Boise State's defense, run defense, even pass defense, they just slowly get worn out. So if UW can establish those long drives, they'll be pretty successful on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, well, that is a huge stat, is the fouls. Can Boise State can they stay disciplined in this game? And that was a stat all up into Colorado State. And then Irby stopped the trend by actually intercepting a pass on a drive where Boise State had completed had a personal foul. So that trend stopped. But the trend of fouls and personal fouls and the results of them, massive impactors. So talking about discipline, special teams, defense, the whole team overall, can Boise State not beat itself in this game? Going to be a major factor in this one. Thanks for throwing in some Washington keys of the game. I'll have to go back in and edit where I lied and said we weren't going to do Washington keys. Hey, Washington fans, Jake got you. You just wait till the end to tell me. So I'm sorry that if you just tuned out and they're coming back in now. But all right, let's get into the summary piece and the score prediction. I'm going to let you lead off with your summary of what we've talked about and your thoughts of this matchup, and then also throw out your score prediction. And then I'll wrap up with my own thoughts on the final base of this game.
So everything for me points towards this being another week. It's going to be copy paste with the offense, copy paste with the defense. It's all going to be kind of simple here. However, I am going to say here that throw out the stats. Throw out extra week of practice, hard hits, explosive plays. It's a bowl game. Who's going to play? Who's not? Gronk's going to be there. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be indoors. So weather's not going to affect it. Like, for instance, the University of Washington, they played at University of Wisconsin. Wisconsin was terrible, but it was a snow game, and they just lost the game. You're like, how the hell did they lose that game? It's bad weather. You're not going to have that in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. I think, though, however, throw out this records, throw out this teams you've never seen before. Both quarterbacks can, or Damon Williams, their quarterback can run. Our quarterback's solid. Our pass defense is very good. Their receivers are okay. Like, there's matchups here and there. Actually, I would say the receivers are pretty good. But I think throw it all away. I'm going complete homer. 31-28 Boise State. They're going to win this game. Right now, UW is favored by 9.5. That means they're solid favorite. But 9.5 point favorites in college football is not enough for the spread there. I'm telling you, Boise State wins on a field goal there, 31-28.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Let's end the video there. Okay, let's get to my score prediction. Kind of a little teaser here. Not as homerish in my own thoughts. I see a lot of good things out of both of these teams. Notre Dame, 245.8 yards passing per game, 168.8 yards rushing per game. Very, very balanced. When you look at where they rank in rushing attempts and passing attempts, they're right at the same level. Their passing attempts are about 45-ish, 47th-ish in the country, and their rushing attempts are 54th in the country. So they're or in that range. They're both a very, very balanced team that's going to come at you in multiple different ways and not just something you can focus in on one thing to win this one. They're very, very good at scoring as well with 33.8 yards per game. And the worst thing about all of this is usually when you come into a matchup like this, you can kind of bet on being the team that's the most motivated to win as a group of five team. You're the underdog, chance to win. Washington, I think, is just as motivated to win this game. I mean, maybe Boise State has a slight edge what this season means, the players fighting for Spencer Danielson and everything that they went through, the up and down year. But overall, this game still means something to Washington as far as proving that they're a team that can rebuild and set themselves up for 2026. Boise State on their side has some good things going for them. Their pass defense is really, really solid, 171.7 yards per game, 13th in the country. And they've held three quarterbacks at the time that they played them, three quarterbacks to career lows in passing, including, I know he was just his first year starting, but including the Notre Dame quarterback at the time as well. And so Boise State is really, really good in their secondary, but their rush defense is terrible. Their rush defense is terrible. It's like 89th overall in the country or something like that. But it's just not very good. And I think that's going to be the tipping point. I think that Boise State's pass defense does a good job of stopping this, but we kind of see what Washington has done in the past with those long runs. You just think back to the 2013 game, we're just, all over the place, just ran all over us in that game. I'm not going to say it's going to happen where they're just going to run all over Boise State this entire game. I think Boise State's going to come out really strong like they do first few drives stopping this team, but eventually Washington is going to find a way to break through. And again, I don't think it's going to be their just complete defensive collapse, but they're going to kind of do what UNLV had opportunities to do last week, where Boise State stops them pretty well in the running game, focus on stopping that quarterback, and then eventually they start to build momentum with a run. The problem is that Washington has a good enough defense to hold Boise State down defensively and allow a score similar to UNLV to be enough to win this game. And so I am excited about this one. My biggest questions are, can our run defense stop Washington? I'm not sure. Not that they have a world-breaking run offense here, but they have some really good players, and it is, Big Ten run offense versus Big Ten defenses, so you have to take the statistics a little bit into account for that. I think they're a really good run defense against a Boise State defense that has struggled to stop the run. I think they're a really, really good quarterback who is perfect against our weakness. I think it's a Boise State offensive staff that I don't still have full confidence yet on. I think that they have shown potential to make the adjustments needed, but I think they also show enough bad habits when it comes to focusing in on just the routine regular run game and not being creative and not showing the window dressing that I don't have full confidence that they can come up with a game plan in this one that will definitely beat Washington's defense. And at the end of the day, I just don't think Madsen is healthy in this game. I think if Madsen is 100% doesn't take either the injury versus Air Force or the injury versus Fresno State and is coming into this game with kind of the revamped offense that we've had, I think we can win this game. But I don't think he is. I think we'd have a better chance of winning with the fully healthy quarterback in Max Cupforth. And it gets not an argument right now for me versus Max Cupforth's potential versus Max Madsen's potential. I just don't think that Max Madsen is fully healthy. And it showed in the second half, completely different quarterback in the second half than he was in the first half there, both in completion percentage and overall performance. I think he's going to do something similar to what he did versus UNLV. In the first half, I think he's going to be very good. I think Boise State's going to score about 18 points or something like that in the first half, but it's not going to be the 24 points and a huge lead, a 2-score at that point lead, because Washington is also going to score. And then I think we're going to go into the second half. Washington's going to make adjustments, which Boise State's offense has not shown a great ability to make their adjustments. Their defense will do okay, but I don't think that Boise State's offense is going to make the adjustments they need to. And Maddox Madsen's current status, as far as not being 100%, is going to hold him back from making this offense as effective as it could be against a revamped Washington defense in the second half. And so overall, I'm excited this game. It definitely, I think, means more in the grand scheme of things to Boise State. They have that 2023 feeling. They're trying to amp up, but I think that we have a maybe 2023 result, at least in a loss. I'm actually a very similar score overall. I'm just going to flip them a little bit to you. Washington 32, Boise State 27 is what so when you threw out yours, I was like, oh man, we're like almost there. It's just wrong teams in each spot. I hope that you're right. I hope that I'm wrong. I believe in my fan side that Boise State's going to win this game. And I'm coming in honestly with a lot of confidence, a lot more confidence than I would have 4 weeks ago when we got demolished versus San Diego State in the rain. So I am coming into this game with a lot more confidence and expectations for Boise State. I absolutely believe that they can win this game. And if Maddox Madsen, just despite injury, turns it on for 4 quarters, we can win this matchup. But there's enough things holding me back that, at least trying to be unbiased on my analyst side, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think Boise State holds. I think they can beat the spread, but I do think in the end that Boise State loses. However, to end this on a positive note, at least before we kind of end with final thoughts, to end this on a positive note, that is still a good result. Okay. We want to win this game, but coming up against a Washington team like this, who's a good, this is not like some 6-6 Pac-12 team that's just terrible. This is a good Washington program that went head to head with very good teams in the Big Ten, beat some top 25, beat any top 25 program in Illinois. They were they were good overall this season, and they're on the rise. So this 32-27 is an exciting game. People will watch it. They'll see potential at Boise State, and it will be an opportunity to springboard them. Maybe not the same as a win would do, but enough to get people talking. And I think we'll still set them up well in 2026. And so I'm excited for this game, regardless. As long as Boise State doesn't get blown out, they will do what they need to set themselves up for 2026. And I don't think they will. And even though I'm predicting a loss, I absolutely believe that Boise State will win this game. My fan side is overcoming all of it. I'm going to be rooting on my Caps. I cannot wait, and I'm excited to be able to review.
I'm stopping him right now. I'm stopping him right now. Okay, everybody, stick with me here. Okay, we previewed the game a couple years ago when they played UCLA, and Jake was a little more fanish, like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to go it. I went the analytical route. Oh, CJ Taylor never attempted to pass. Really good rush defense. Blah 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 blah. All that kind of stuff there. I was analytical and correct, and it went the wrong way. So I'm going to be irrational and say Boise State's going to win this damn game. I listen. UW's a very good team. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I think that Boise State can blow out the UW. They're very, very good. But I think that bowl game, it means more. I got to lead into my boys. I'm going to be irrational for the brand. Irrational for the brand, baby.
I love it. I love it. Well, Boise State versus Washington, a great game, an exciting matchup. I hope Boise State wins it. I believe that they absolutely can. And I cannot wait to have an opportunity in my review to review the first Power 4 win for Boise State since I started this channel in 2020. I'm hoping I get to have that opportunity. So overall, thanks for watching, everybody, all the way through to the end. Please let us know your score predictions. If you didn't already, you've already heard ours, but that's okay. Let us know your score predictions in the comments below. Thanks, everybody, for watching all the way to the end. Jake, it's been awesome to have you on.
Awesome. I appreciate it so much. Hey, please go check out his channel. Check out my channels, especially all you gamers. I'm telling you, EA College Football. I got stuff. I got analytics. I got this. I got news. I got, strategies. Go check it out. But yes, thank you so much. We're going to do this. We're going to keep on doing this, man.
Yeah, well, that'll be the end of the season preview for next year. We'll be having Jake on, like I have every single year since we started doing this, to start looking at the overall record prediction, where we both predict that Boise State's going to go undefeated and win the CFP like we have every other year. So
hell yeah, baby.
Thanks everybody for coming on. Thanks for being part of the discussion. Hopefully in the comments below, Washington and Boise State fans, please let us know your thoughts on the video. Like Jake said, make sure that you follow both these channels. Make sure you follow Jake's channel, the Master Football channel, and also the MF Film Room. And then also, if you like college football content, Boise State, obviously, but hey, there's any Washington fans that college football in general as well, especially conference realignment or anything like that. Make sure you follow as well. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe. And as always, go Big Blue!